Hello, everyone. Welcome to Authenticity. I'm Anna Toothman, and my beautiful guest today is our beloved sister, Vineeta, who is streaming live from Chicago. We were talking before the show, Vineeta. I'm not very good at pronouncing people's last names, but I do want everybody to hear your beautiful Indian name if you would like to say it for us.
Yes, my name is Vineeta Santoshi.
Santoshi. Ooh, it's powerful. I love it. Vineeta is also a podcaster. This sister is multi talented, multi passionate about ascension, embodiment, and taking some of our stories that we've been through in density and turning them into light for us to see the love and the growth and why we went through it. And so, Vineeta, I feel so close to you and what you do, obviously, because being a podcaster. And I feel like we have similar roles. We're in that we want to share with the world this news of unity consciousness and that we are love indeed, and that the change is happening through us, as you know, and you speak of on your podcast. And your podcast is called Elevate with V. V stands for so many things, Vineeta, in my heart: victory, victorious, valiant. So many things, V, to me. I'm glad that we get to connect today, the day after Mother's Day. And when I think of mother, I think of cosmic mother, mother, father, God, creation itself in motion. Vanetta, Vineeta, I'm honored to have you today. Thank you. And all those who are watching, welcome. How is May presenting for you with all the plasma in the field and all the CMEs, all the solar flares? How have you been receiving these codes? How are you navigating all this in your own live stream at the moment?
Well, first, I want to thank you for the beautiful introduction. I'm so grateful that we're actually able to connect. You and I have known each other through Sology, I would say for almost a year now. So thank you so much. I am thrilled to be able to co-create with you, and you are 100% correct. We both have a very similar vision and mission. I think there's a lot of alignment. So it's beautiful that we can both come together and bring more of that energy and elevation into this space. So regarding May, it's really interesting. As you know, as we go through this journey, we start to become even more tuned in to energies and to our senses, right? Like all our clairs get heightened. And what I realized is that I do get impacted by the solar flares, like a lot. And what happens to me is, as I was noticing, is I really get tired very quickly. I get exhausted and my body like wants all this extra rest. So I find myself sleeping so much more. And then to be gentle and compassionate with myself that it's okay, right? Because we get into that place of, oh, I've got 50 things to do. I can't be sleeping. I got all these things I have to get done. And I've just found myself in a place of just allowing, because it's almost like I need to just honor my body and honor what I'm being asked, and to not resist and not to fight, and just say, okay, this is part of what needs to happen, because it's going to continue to keep me on the path and keep me moving and allowing me to expand and grow and elevate at the same time. So definitely felt very much a lot of energies, but I can also tell that just based on where all of us as a collective are, we are actually upgrading pretty quickly. So I feel like things are happening very fast. So I'm curious, what is your experience? What have you been feeling?
Very similar. I was chatting with one of my closest, dearest friends on the phone this morning, and we were talking about, she said, it seems like time has really slowed down the last few days. Is And I says, yeah, time is really showing us that it is a linear perspective. That it made sense, when I tuned in during meditation, it felt like I had been meditating for an hour, and then for an hour, and I realized it had only been like 20 minutes. And when that happens, I know that time is being stretched for a reason. And how I perceived it, it was so much plasma coming in, so much information, that at the moment right now, we need as much time to receive such information, so much intel that's hitting the collective, Gaia, the elemental kingdom, the animal kingdoms, all are being saturated with this love. And so when we need more time, we slow down so that we may receive all that we need to receive. So it's very purposeful. And many have been writing about how all this has been occurring during Mother's Day weekend, which I thought, yeah, makes sense. What a way to celebrate with all the auroras, right? Everyone looking to the skies, gathering. It really felt like even the colors, the skies were green, and pinks, reds. And it does slow me down. Some of the major X flares, I was surprised because some of them, and I believe it has to do with my role, Vineeta, is uh, I'll go out. It could be like I'll be sitting, I'll know that I need to sit down, and then I'm needed on the other side. And then, sleeping. I do a lot of grid work, crystalline grid work. And so at times the sun, how I'm working with the sun and the information coming in will take me out momentarily, for I need to rest. So I can imagine, each one of us have our unique key that we're assisting in this evolutionary time that we're in this now. And so, yeah, it slows us down. We're exhausted, perhaps, and the busyness will come when the time is right. We slow down, and then we expand, and then we take those moments when we want to move forward and get it all done. We use those opportunities, right? That then we can create. I saw when I looked into your page, Vineeta, you had a guest that had a near-death experience. How was that show? What is that showing you? What's coming in for you for that?
Oh, for near-death experiences, I think for me it's really interesting because there's so many different ways that occurs for people, so I'm just always fascinated by what that means. And I think the episode that you watched might have been with Adewale. I think it's my latest episode. And it's really incredible what we have chosen to experience in this lifetime. I mean, literally, like with him, it was clinging to life, you know? And I think it's interesting because some of us who have chosen to be here and to be sharing our light, we have chosen some very challenging paths to get to where we're sitting right now. So in some sense, it's very interesting to me because there's no comparison, right, between anybody. It's really just unique journeys. But every time we get to hear someone's experience, we can find ourselves in their stories, right? I didn't have to go through his experience, but I had my own version of what felt like a near death experience, right? And I'm sure you probably have your own set of experiences that probably felt like a near-death experience to you as well. So in some sense, I think it's very interesting. What it brings for me is this sense of death and rebirth while we are here. It's a process that we're going through. Like, if you think about it, I know for me, when I walked into my kind of awakening journey, what was that? That was a death of some parts of that Vineeta, so that this version that I could now remember and uncover can show up. And I feel
Absolutely.
like I'm sitting in that space again where so much is shifting and changing around me. I feel that there's another rebirth transformation process happening, or in the process of happening.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to think of the words I wanted to say. Is when we think of evolution and infinite, that we're infinite. Because people's like, when is this going to end? When is this going to stop? Right? We may even have said it ourselves at different times, but it's not. We just get acclimated. We're never going to stop growing. We're infinite beings. Like myself, I want to be a star someday, right? I want to radiate. I don't want to ever stop evolving to my greatest potential of who I can be. And however that transformation and learning along the way, I see now that we hear these things, it's not the destination, it's the journey. So if we get to live 1,000 years or thousands of years, and we've been here thousands of times, or however this is going to end up, I want to be here for it all. That way, there's no rush. When you realize that you're here and you're infinite, then there really isn't no need to rush, because it's infinity, right? It's infinite. We're constantly blossoming and becoming another version of ourselves. Death and rebirth. Oh, there's another version of Gaia, another version of Vineeta, another version of Anna. Our future, what we call our guides, our galactic family, are, we've been hearing terms like, oh, that's versions of ourselves in the future. Well, if that's a version of me in the future, there's things that I'm going to experience between now and then. We may have a quantum leap to get to certain realm experiences. We may have, we're skipping timelines all the time. It's subtle, so that we don't like, oh, did I just lose my mind? It could cause franticness. We have to keep something similar, but it's subtle. And so I'm here for the whole thing, is what I'm trying to say. I don't want to miss a beat of how we're going to create heaven on earth together. And that's, for me, the beauty of it. So we came in to experience density, because there's no good or bad here. We talk about light and dark, good and bad. We're talking about realms, from dense to the lightest realms and the highest dimensions, whatever words we want to use to describe the way that we understand our reality to be. And as a spiritual being having a human experience, we wanted to know the depths of everything. And here we are, playing on the other side of embodiment, which is heaven on earth now. But we get to do it in human form, where usually enlightenment came and then you went to heaven. you went to the other side. You would cross over. But now we're receiving this blessing and this gift to be aware that we are source and form. No separation. That you and I and everyone we meet and speak to is just a mirror of who we are. And it's beautiful. It brings tears to my eyes because I feel your presence. And I'm so grateful to have this platform and this technology to share that love with the world. That's where I am at right now and why I do this. It's because there's a lot of code being exchanged when we talk to one another, remembering our truth.
Beautiful, Anna. I love
Yeah.
I love it so much. And, you know, I have to say, what I love is I can just feel from your heart what you were sharing just now, you know, whatever you're experiencing and how you're sensing things at the moment. And I think what was so interesting to me is that, you know, this is a process that, because there's so many unknowns,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, even though we are so deep into our spiritual journeys and enjoying this journey, it doesn't mean we don't get challenged, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
when that death and rebirth happens, all of us experiencing that many times, right, through our journey. And
Yeah.
the difference is that we have a lot more tools to deal with those things when they show up now versus when we started our journey.
Yeah.
But I will say there are ups and downs. There are quite a few ups and downs. And I think that is why what you do, what I do, it's also so incredibly helpful, because it's to remind people that we're just like everybody else. We're going through things as well, but we're also understanding the higher perspective of why we have chosen this, why we are embracing our roles and doing it joyfully, but also saying, hey, we're navigating through stuff as well.
Yeah.
And, you know, you touched upon this piece of, you know, these parallel lifetimes and
Mm-hmm.
multidimensionality. And what I sense, which is really exciting, is because of the work that we're doing, if we're in alignment and we're in our hearts, we're having the opportunity to be able to integrate more of these aspects of ourself that
Mm-hmm.
are in different frequencies, and many
Yeah.
of them are higher frequencies and densities, and you know, we're being able to bring those in
Mm-hmm.
and help us remember more of our gifts and our skills and things like that. And so that's something that's really exciting as well, to be able to experience that along the journey.
I heard someone say the other day that their spirit wasn't inside them, that they were inside their spirit. And I love that so much because, you know, when you zoom out in, you know, to your infinite self, your grand self, you are this encompassing, you are the universe. And so it would make sense that this human body would be is within that, or the universe. We say that the universe is within us. So it's fun. It's fun, and yes, it does come with challenges. This is a journey that's not for the faint of heart, for real. It's part of our mastery. It's part of our spiritual maturity and spiritual intelligence. It's part of our emotional intelligence. It's part of us growing up, maturing, realizing that these experiences are teaching us Are we having moments of attachment? Are we having moments of lack? Are you in fear? We've quickly realized that it's all perspective.
Yes.
You know, like you can look at something and two people can look at something and see two completely different things. You can see something and be in awe of its beauty. And some people might be like, ugh, I don't even know what you, what, like where, you know, and that's what I mean. You get to this place that you, part of our inner growth is to see that it's all perfect. May it be how everyone perceives it, that they're all having their own perceptual version of their reality, working through their own awakening, going through their own awarenesses. And once you realize that, then you jump out of that judgment and you allow their soul to have their journey. Then you get to witness their growth because we have free will to be where we want to be and accept what reality we want to accept. But there's those of us who, what we call the rainbow bridge holders. We're becoming the rainbow bridge, a portal, a gateway for those to walk through. Other than that, enjoy the ride. That's what I'm doing. I'm having a good time today and yesterday and the day before. You're having all these um, aha moments and awareness of who we really are, and it takes the weight of the world off your shoulders. That it's okay for people to be themselves. Tell me about your podcast. I want to hear it. Where can I go listen? I want to hear this beautiful voice of yours.
Thank you. It's called Elevate with V, like you shared. And, I'm on all the regular platforms, the Apple, Spotify, YouTube, because I think it's important the work that you and I do that people get to see us and to get to see our guests because there's this energetic connection beyond just the voice that is very, very important. And yeah, it's been really interesting because I went through my own awakening. Um, it was perfectly aligned with the pandemic. So, March of 2020, boom, I was in it. And, I had a lot of time and I was interested in actually doing the work. I had come out of an experience where I had to close a business that I loved with my heart and soul. Um, and it was a business partnership that ended that just left me in a place where I felt like, to me, that was my near death experience, right? Where,
Of course.
I mean, everything fell apart and you're looking around, wondered what happened and how did this happen? And at that time, it's like, well, why me? Like, I'm this really good person. Like, why would the universe do this to me? We go through that phase.
Mm.
And it was really interesting as I took the time to navigate and to do my inner work. And a lot of it was alone because during the pandemic, we had, fewer options in terms of let me go meet up with people. Let's go have a cup
Right.
of coffee. Let me share. And on top of that is the journey that I was going through. I didn't really feel like anybody could relate because that was not their experience. And slowly I started to find things online and Facebook groups and other things where I started to hear other people who were either navigating through something similar or had navigated enough of their journey that they had pearls of wisdom and experiences to share that I could say, oh, wow, I'm not alone. There are other people. Okay, they're ahead of me. I can probably learn some things. So, that is kind of where I was. And, that all kind of helped me significantly. And then I think it was in 2022 where I realized that I'd done enough of my own work. I mean, as we know, the journey's always ongoing, but I'd done enough of my own work that that realization was there that there must be thousands and thousands of people like me who had to navigate, who are navigating, who will navigate through what we will call like these near death experiences, storms, all kinds of challenges. And if I could help one person so that they had some tools or some resources, that's all I wanted. If there's even one person that can receive something. And, in that process of being on Facebook and other places, I started connecting with so many beautiful people. And it all kind of lined up when I decided, okay, I'm going to do a podcast. I don't know that it makes complete sense, but I'm feeling the nudge. This is what I
Yeah.
need to do. And I literally had this roster of people that I had connected with. So I literally had all the people already lined up that I just needed to say, will you come join me and come share your story? Because we could maybe offer something to others who are navigating through their journey. And so that's kind of really what my podcast is about, which I think is a little bit similar to what you're doing as well, is really for us to just share our stories, because every story is unique. And
Yeah.
I think it's really important for people to feel like they are being heard. Their story is important, they are important. And how you were saying before, we really do hold keys, codes, and frequencies for each other. And you
Yeah.
never know what's going to resonate with someone, you know? And so, in doing that, what I realized is once I started doing the podcast, not only was I super excited to share this information and co-create with, my beautiful partners in doing this work, I was receiving too every time I do an
Oh,
episode. And, I go back because I have to re listen. I'm doing some very minor editing. It's like, wow, it's just layers of information. And so it's so beautiful because to me, that's just like a win win, right? Like everybody gets to receive in the process. So it is such a beautiful co creation. And I'm just so grateful that I get to do this. And it just brings me so much joy. And I feel very aligned in doing this work.
bravo, and thank you for doing such great work too. To people do want to be heard. Yes, people do want to be heard, and it gives other people permission to share. And there's lots of people right now who are writing books about their stories, because writing it down is healing, speaking it is healing, and then to hear it, and how we are more accepting of one another when we see our humanness. It's so true. I've heard you on a couple of Todd's um, interviews with you, and at one time we were all together with Ernestine. I was on the there was like we call he used to have those
Yes.
what did he call? I forget what they were called, but you would call in or not call in, but pop up. He'd
Yes.
have a pop up, and then if he would put a link up, and you could join. And I remember it was a few years ago, obviously, and I was walking back and forth in my house, and I was just like so nervous, and I kept thinking, no, not yet, I can't do it. I can't get on there, I just can't. I was didn't know what to say. I didn't want to hear my own voice, or I was so for so many reasons we stop ourselves, and these could be just unraveling our own programming, our own cellular fears, and finding out what they're from, even just by thinking about, why don't I, what am I afraid of, why don't I, why not, why why not do this, what's stopping me? And it's fear of whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's a big deal, right, Anna? For, you go from, the pandemic happening, everyone's kind of gone more inwards for those of us that have chosen to do that. And we're just kind of navigating through all of this inner work, right? And that involves so many different layers, including our inner child, all this programming, right?
Yes.
And, Todd and I talked and we joked because he said, well, how long did you wait before you launched your podcast? I'm like, oh, yes, I definitely did. I sort of set a date and I was like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. So it took another like 4 or 5 months. And there was pressure because a few people I shared with, they're like, well, when's your podcast coming out? Well, when's your podcast coming out? And what I realized is that I still had to work through some things because I had transformed so much that I was going to
So
come out in a
quickly.
public way.
Yeah.
And for those people that even knew me, they'd be like, what? Who is this person now? And I mean, it's but what is she talking about? What are these topics that she's talking about? So, in some sense, I don't know about you, but I felt like I was stepping out like naked in front of everybody. Like that's what I felt like.
Yes.
Like I'm
Yes.
putting all of myself out here. I don't know what criticism is going to come my way. I have no idea what people are going to say. You know what I mean? Like you just
Yeah.
don't know. But you do it anyways because the nudge is so strong. You can't withhold it anymore, right? You're like, I have to do this. I'm supposed to do this. And, it was definitely a big step. And even now I think it's like as much I just am in flow. I love doing the podcast, but when someone else asks me, like I've been invited on podcasts, I'm like, oh, it's so much easier for me to be the person really navigating the interview versus like kind of being in the question seat, right?
In the
So
hot seat.
in the hot seat, right? So it's like, again, there are things that come up and it's like, okay, that's great. It's just more something else for you to look at and to have a new perspective. And I think that's what I'm learning, like you were saying, is that when something occurs as we're going along in our journey, we realize it's about how we perceive things, right?
Yeah.
I could have what we could say, a negative way that I look at it, or I could empower myself, but I get to choose. I get
Get
to
to
choose in every moment what I would like to experience. And I think that's where that power comes from. But it takes a while for us to get to that place, right? Because our mind, by programming, will always go to the fear first. But I think that's okay because we have to look at that fear, allow it, understand it, and then say, okay, now that I have, what choice would I like to make? There's no wrong choice. There really isn't. However, I know what I want to experience. And if I want to experience that growth, that expansion, that evolution, that elevation, then I'm going to align with that. And it's okay to be afraid and jump anyways.
And that's beautiful that you have this inner knowing and understanding that you said so much there, that you get to choose. Think about the power, that how powerful you are, that we are, that in every single moment, like playing a video game, or if you're the director of your own play, but we are literally are as you so beautifully expressed, is that in that moment, through your eyes of perceiving and what you're experiencing, using all your senses, you get to choose the next moment just by your very frequency that you're producing. Because this is a frequency based experience. Our hologram reality is based on harmonics, tones, frequency, and dimension, and what you're vibrating at. So when you're vibrating at a certain hertz or rate, that will be the experience and what realm that you're in and experiencing. So at the driver's seat in those moments, we choose that exact experience, like you explained so beautifully. How do I want to proceed now in this now moment? And it takes practice and training our own and overriding our neural pathways. It takes experiencing all of it and breaking through the algorithms. Once you see that it's an algorithm, once you see that reality comes back around over and over again based on your choices to see what different choices you're going to make in that moment. I've had several of those experiences to see how I would react differently or if I would perceive it differently. Jason Estes will call them also template tests, to test our template, our divine template that's coming in. Where are you at? Where are we at collectively? And where are we individually is very important. And that's where the true growth comes from, is from being self-aware. And how powerful we are in those moments. And we talk about new earth and to move forward. We can't create in the new earth with a motive or an intent to do harm. And so when we have been doing all this unraveling, all this healing, so that when we play in human form in higher light realms, it is a guarantee that your choices are going to be from a centered, neutral hard space. Said that humanity moving forward, we're creating full time from our heart through divine will and love and light intelligence at all times. So basically, it's kind of like boot camp for us. We've been in boot camp. We've been learning how to navigate the physical reality as spiritual beings in a denser reality. We got to learn what it felt like to be emotional, to love, to have children or no children or whatever our choices were to be here, to smell the roses. It's all of it, Vineeta. It's all of it. It's so perfectly, divinely, intelligently playing out. So that each one of us, one at a time or multiple at a time, are seeing that it was an experience for us to grow from. So that what we did in other lifetimes in Atlantis, Lemuria, Mu, that we hold divine wisdom in our creations moving forward. And really, the journey is just now beginning for many of us that are coming into this knowing that love is really who we are and why we're here, to shine our radiant light as creators and co-creators of heaven on earth, on this beautiful planet. And it feels amazing I look forward to waking up in the morning and I think about what do I get to do today? What do I want to see or experience or learn? Or am I going to see my friends today, or, or a bird, or am I going to go to the river? It just seems infinite. Like, what are we going to learn together? What is going to unravel? And it just becomes fluid and flow and more ease, more grace as we go along. And I'm grateful for that, for this opportunity of learning forgiveness.
Beautifully said, Anna. And I love what you said. So many different aspects of what you shared. And I think the things that jumped out to me were also this coming to neutrality. I think that's kind of one of the biggest pieces of all of this, is being able to almost become an observer.
Yeah.
And when we are able to step into that place of being an observer and creating a little bit of space
Yeah.
between our human and that other aspect, I think it really gives us even more space to operate from neutrality versus being in it, and that's something that I'm practicing a lot more. And it's definitely very helpful for me in my journey. And I did want to bring up, because it was just staring at me when you were talking about this, is, just being more of ourselves. And I just love, like, your show is called Authenticity.
Yeah.
And that is about embracing all aspects of ourselves, right? Like, as people would say, the good, the bad, the ugly, like all
Yeah.
of it, and learning to love it and to embrace it. And I think that's what a lot of this journey is: accepting all parts of it, not
Mm-hmm.
hiding anything, not having to shun it, not having to put it in a corner, because we become so comfortable in our own skin and our beingness in our soul, right? That we can truly show up exactly how we are. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay to have a not so great day, right? Or to navigate through something that feels really heavy. All of it is okay. And it's part of the process. But then to also feel that, okay, I'm feeling this way, I can choose to kind of just deal with it by myself. Or maybe I'd like to have a conversation with someone. Maybe I need to have a back and forth with someone. Maybe I could receive some support, because I don't know about you, but a lot of my journey was alone.
Of course.
And even though I understand a lot of that is what it's supposed to be, that a lot of it is alone, because you're supposed to go inside and not
Yeah.
have a lot of external influence. But I think where we are now, and because we have so many amazing brothers and sisters, just even in Sology and in the community, we have that opportunity to connect with each other and to feel that support, where someone can just receive you exactly the way that you are. No judgments, nobody needs to give you any advice, to just have the space there to say, you are seen, I'm here, it's all valid, it's all okay. And for both those moments, as well as the really wonderful moments too, like you were sharing, right? Where
Yeah.
there's just this kind of magical quality, where I feel like our inner child, the more we integrate with our inner child, the more the inner child is coming out to play and say,
Yeah.
oh, let's go outside. Let's go look at the
Yes.
butterflies and go sit and
Yeah.
enjoy the sun. And I know for me, as I've been navigating and doing the work, more and more of my inner child is coming out to play, because she's healed, she's happy, she feels like she's incorporated into my daily life and that I'm here and we can do things together. Now, someone listening could be like, what is she talking about? But it's just about, we have so many different aspects, right? The younger version of us, the sort of teenage version, all these different versions. And the more we're able to integrate and to heal those pieces, I think that's when we can come into this place of neutrality, being able to navigate from a place where we're so much more empowered, right? Because we know that all parts of us are kind of like working together
Yeah.
to co-create whatever we want to experience. So I loved, the pieces that you shared, and for, your show, because this is what it's about, like just being ourselves and being able to show up and being received.
It's perfect. And that's what we want moving forward, is to be transparent and authentic. And you said, the inner child wants to come out and play. Have you ever talked to someone that's older, and they'll be like, I still feel young on the inside. My body feels old, but I still feel young. And that's what they mean, is because that inner being, that the child in us really is the freedom we seek as grown-ups. It's constantly reminding of us to play. And once we've healed those aspects, our younger self, our teenage self, or whatever part that we needed to look at that perhaps wasn't seen, and now feel safe to come out and play, is beautiful. I think about going on Spotify. I haven't yet. Um, I'm just kind of in the flow of where I'm going to go next. I stream here on Facebook and on YouTube. And I was approached by another network, which was very flattering. Yeah, if I wanted to come join them, I am leaving it open. Vineeta, you're on Facebook. Are you on Instagram? And you mentioned YouTube, Spotify, and you said Apple Tunes.
So Apple Podcast, and like I said, Spotify. And I just recently got on TikTok and on X. I was kind of resisting for a while. And then, I think this is an important message too, is, we are bombarded with so much information when it comes to social media, all these different platforms. And I think what I realized is just to use discernment, what feels right. And, to me, it is important in the work that you and I do that we are received and seen in many places, because there's audiences everywhere, right? And part of this is, like you said, to step into some new things and say, okay, well, let's just try it out. If I don't like it, if it's not working, I can always stop. But
Yeah.
why not? Why not? Why say no to something, regardless of all the chatter that's going on about it, to say, okay, we'll check it out. So I'm exploring and doing some new things. And I'm like, why not? This is the time.
It is the time to fly. It is the time to try it all. Don't let one moment be pass you by, Vineeta. I'm doing that for myself. I'm not allowing anything any longer to stop me from being who I want to be or
Yes,
desire to be. I thank
absolutely.
you for being on my show. I am so honored to have you today. A
Mm,
sister with the same vision. I know that awareness, and that it's so important for people to understand that they're powerful, and that love is really who we are. Everybody tune in to Elevate with V. Find out, listen to her last guest. Oh, check her out. It was an amazing story. And I think he starts about from age 3.
mhm.
Yeah, exciting stuff. Not always being on TV is the funnest stuff, and people love to put their buds in and listen. So it's a great opportunity for people to check you out. I love you. I thank you. I'll send you a copy of this show.
Thank you so much, Anna. It was just truly a pleasure. I'm so glad that we got a chance to see each other finally after all this time and to co create this beautiful episode. And I just want to reflect back to you. Thank you for everything that you are doing. And you stepped in and being bold and courageous and doing this beautiful work. So thank you for everything that you do. And thank you also for inviting me to co create with you.
Love you.
Love you too.
Bye bye.